Welcome back to Okaloosa Eye on Crime.
And we've got lots to talk about this month and plenty of people on the run who we're hoping that you can help track down. So let's get started.
Well, first up, we're going to start with a mysterious disappearance of a Crestview woman. On March 27th, it will mark 6 years since the disappearance of Calandra Rochelle Stallworth. Now, Calandra was last heard from on March 27th back in 2017 when she spoke with her mother on the phone after getting off work in Sandestin. She was supposed to be at work the next day but never showed up, and she's not been seen or heard from since. Now, she has children, family, and friends that have not heard from her since that date, and all agree that this is out of character for her. And the Crestview Police Department has followed up on numerous leads and interviewed several witnesses and still have not located Calandra and continue to investigate her disappearance. So anybody that may have information about her whereabouts, of course, you can contact the Crestview Police Department or Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers, and that would be 100% anonymous.
And up next, the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office is still seeking information in a 2013 homicide. On April 29th, in fact, it will be 11 years since someone shot and killed 32-year-old Paris Quentin Matthews, and OCSO investigators are continuing to seek answers that will help them solve this case. Matthews was inside his apartment at Renee Lynn Apartments, located on Woodham Street in Fort Walton Beach, when two men knocked on the door, barged in when he opened it, and then shot him. The suspects are described as black males. Part of the problem here is with identity. They were both wearing hoodies and had their lower faces covered.
Next up, the Fort Walton Beach Police Department is still asking for information in a 1978 murder. It's 42 years ago. Bonnie Reither's partially decomposed body was located at Ferry Park on Hughes Street in Fort Walton Beach. Now, her blue and color 1976 Ford Pinto was also located in the parking lot of Ferry Park. She was last seen in the early morning hours on April 5th, back in 1978, leaving from the Continental Club on North Eglin Parkway. Now, Fort Walton Beach police detectives aren't giving up on finding Bonnie's killer, and they're hoping someone might have information that will help solve the case. Remember, you can contact Crime Stoppers 863-TIPS, EmeraldCoastCrimeStoppers.com, or the P3 TIPS mobile app.
We're going to move over now to the Walton County Sheriff's Office, where they're still looking for answers in a 2021 Miramar Beach killing. 47-year-old Richard Earl Gene King was shot and killed outside of a restaurant on Scenic Gulf Drive in Miramar Beach on February 27th of 21. At the time of this shooting, the suspect vehicle was described as a full-size SUV, dark in color, possibly gray or blue. And following the shooting, it fled westbound on Scenic Gulf Drive. Anyone with information on that, of course, you know how to contact us.
And of course, we want to remind folks, if you want to know more about these cases or other cold cases or active cases we might have, you can go to EmeraldCoastCrimeStoppers.com and search through them there. Now, we do want to talk a little bit about our successes, and that's our January and February statistics of this year. We had 174 tips that came in. That led to 11 arrests and cleared 11 cases for our local law enforcement partners. And our board approved $3,150 in rewards. So good job. Thanks. Keep those tips coming in.
Yeah, you can see Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers works. So we're hoping you're paying attention to all of these, and you can help us find some of these folks and get rewards on them. First up on our list of fugitives is Chastity Jean Jacobs. She's 45 years old, and she's wanted for felony violation of probation on original charges of fleeing and eluding law enforcement, fraud, larceny, and passing counterfeit bills.
47-year-old Renee Izquierdo Lopez is wanted for sexual battery on a victim under 12 years of age and lewd and lascivious molestation.
Another one with sex crimes, Timothy Tyler Turner. He's 31, and he's wanted for felony sexual battery and lewd and lascivious molestation. Turner's last known address was on Red Barrow Road in Baker.
Next up is Clint Wayne Covey, who's 40 years old. He's wanted for felony failure to appear for 2 counts of battery on an officer or firefighter.
And lawmen are still trying to locate Ann Margaret Mary Marsh. She's wanted for failure to appear for theft and elderly abuse charges. Her last known address was on Madeline's Path in Fort Walton Beach.
61-year-old Denise Evelyn Freites, who was last known to live in Pensacola, she's wanted for felony violation of probation for DUI, fleeing and eluding law enforcement, and possession of a controlled substance.
Got a long list here for Alonzo Borum. He's wanted for felony failure to appear for fleeing and eluding law enforcement, resisting arrest without violence, possession of a controlled substance, and possession of narcotics equipment. He was last known to live on Shrewsbury Road in Mary Esther.
Our next fugitive is 22-year-old John William Galveo Saab. He's wanted for first-degree premeditated murder in the shooting death of a 48-year-old Fort Walton Beach man back on March 17th of 2021 in the Capri Commons Mobile Home Park. He had an address on Patio Road in Fort Walton Beach prior to the murder, but has left the area, and investigators have been unable to locate him. So if you know where he is, contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers.
And in the not too distant future, you can look for that case to be profiled on a national TV show. We'll try to give everybody a heads up when that's going to air. Next up, we have Ricky Jerome Sutton. He's wanted for felony VOP for aggravated battery on a pregnant victim and harassing a witness.
Next up is 25-year-old Oswaldo Avelos Camacho. He's wanted for felony failure to appear for aggravated battery with a deadly weapon. He was last known to live on Williams Court in Fort Walton Beach.
And this is Keon Cooper. Cooper's wanted for felony fleeing with disregard to safety of persons or property. Last known address, Dunwoody Place in Fort Walton Beach.
Walton County deputies are searching for 31-year-old Tyson Lamar Richardson for felony violation of probation, as well as knowingly giving false information to law enforcement, last known to live on Landfill in Defuniak Springs.
Casey Scott Dishman was last known to live in Destin. He's wanted for felony failure to appear for resisting arrest without violence, possession of a controlled substance with intent to sell, as well as other narcotics charges.
71-year-old Donald Joe Mitchell is being sought for DUI and driving while license suspended or revoked, last known to live out in a bar.
And now we have Tad Keith Bowers. Bowers wanted for VOP on an original charge of child neglect.
And we have a new face to the show this month. That's Jermaine Allen Hawkins. Even though we don't have a photo, he's 44 years old. He's wanted for felony fraud.
And no pic available on this one either. This is Carol Hardy that they're looking for, 65-year-old white female. She's wanted for felony exploitation of an elderly person. Last known address was on Wilson Street in Crestview.
We do have a photo for 41-year-old Zachary Lee Dalton, who was wanted for arson.
And this is Christian Devontae Nix. Nix wanted for felony FTA for failure to appear for fleeing and eluding, operating a vehicle without a license, and destroying evidence.
Back to Walton County, they're looking for 23-year-old Adrienne Lara for felony violation of probation. She was last known to live on Orange Avenue up in Defuniak Springs.
Would love to be able to locate David Michael Williams. He's wanted for felony violation of probation on multiple counts of grand theft, theft from the elderly, and fraud. He was last known to live on John Sims Parkway in Niceville.
Brennan Shane Dickinson, who was last known to live on Harmony Lane in Crestview. He's wanted for felony possession of a weapon or ammo by a convicted felon, burglary, larceny, as well as violation of probation.
And contact Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers if you have any clue on the location of Angela Dawn Tripp. She's wanted for failure to appear for exploitation of the elderly. Tripp's last known address was on Crown Creek Circle in Crestview.
67-year-old Dara Suzanne Guancola, wanted for felony failure to appear for leaving the scene of an accident DUI with injury or property damage, bribery of or by public official, and resisting arrest without violence, last known to live on Hunt Club Street in Fort Walton Beach.
Well, I'm just going to take a stab at this. Johnnyah Thompson, Joniyah, wanted for felony failure to appear for attempting to flee and elude a law enforcement officer and operating a vehicle without a valid license.
And no photo for LaCamrique Troutman, 25 years old. She's wanted by Crestview Police Department for felony aggravated battery, last known to live on Bel Air Drive in Crestview.
And another Walton County Sheriff's Office case. This one is Lasha Monique T. Moore. She's wanted for theft.
Another new addition this month is Jerome Daniel Mason. He's 39 years old. He's wanted for felony fraud and exploitation of the elderly.
And rounding up this list is Scott Daniel Sconyers. He's wanted for VOP on charges of DUI and fleeing and eluding, and Sconyers was last known to live in Destin. Well, we can tell you that this spring break got off to a very fast start, with deputies writing more than 420 notices to appear for underage possession of alcohol by the third week in March.
Agencies across Northwest Florida have a zero-tolerance policy for underage alcohol possession, but that, of course, does not stop high school and college students who aren't yet 21 from trying to imbibe. One issue that popped up again this spring break season was open house parties, especially in the Crestview Beach area, where the OCSO got plenty of noise complaints and had to disband a number of huge house parties. One of those had an estimated 250 to 300 people in one house when law enforcement arrived on the scene.
And that's the one with the video that you're seeing in Crystal Beach. So one of our deputies said that that may have been the biggest house party he's seen in a decade or more. Speaking of spring break, lifeguards were back on the area beaches from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. daily starting on March 8th. And prior to that, public information for the Okaloosa Board of County Commissioners shared the video we're going to show you of the newest recruits as they were finishing up their training.
And now some of the requirements include 48 hours of United States Life Saving Association training, 48 hours of first responder training, a 1-mile run in under 10 minutes, and a 500-meter swim in under 10 minutes.
Suffice to say, I would not be able to be a lifeguard.
Me neither.
Anyway, we thank the county for letting us share that video on the lifeguards.
We're going to get to our next list of wanted fugitives. We want to remind you they're wanted as of today's taping date, which is March 21st, 2024. So heading up this list is Anthony Michael Frodely. He's 32 years old. He's wanted for violation of probation for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, and providing false information to a pawnbroker, last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
And it's hard to fit all this on one graphic, but Todd Wilson Inman is wanted for felony VOP for driving with a license suspended or revoked, passing 10 or more forged notes, possession of a controlled substance, providing false information to a pawnbroker, and grand theft.
Long list there. We don't have a photo of 33-year-old Brandon Dalton West, but he's being sought for sexual assault.
And Donald Lee Chapman's up next. He's wanted for felony VOP for leaving the scene of an accident, attempting to flee a law enforcement officer, driving with license suspended or revoked, and resisting an officer. He was last known to live on Evergreen Drive in Mary Esther.
31-year-old Alyssa Victoria Hibberts is wanted for violation of probation for child neglect and possession of cocaine.
J. William Shutter's up next. He's 81 years old and he's wanted for felony child neglect.
34-year-old Jose Alberto Hernandez Cruz, who was last known to live on Airport Road in Destin, he's wanted for failure to appear for DUI and 2 counts of child neglect.
And last on this list is Cameron Emmanuel Sanders, wanted for felony fleeing and eluding a law enforcement officer, driving with license suspended or revoked, seems to be a pattern here, and resisting arrest, last known to live on Lark Street in Fort Walton Beach.
Well, the first class of Destin's new Fishing Hall of Fame was recently inducted. Now, the project is the brainchild of Sheriff Aiden, a lifetime local fishing enthusiast, and it came to reality thanks to a great partnership with a committee who will continue its work in coming years as others are added to this prestigious list.
And at the ceremony marking the first installations, Sheriff Aiden told the crowd, "You cannot go anywhere in the world that people don't know about Destin's fishing captains." So we wanted to help celebrate this tribute to those fishing legends past and present.
I just want to recognize these great men and women that are captains that have done so much for this community, restaurants, businesses, all this stuff is possible here in Destin because of the fishing industry that we've created. And you won't go, I'll quote Charles Morgan as saying, you won't go anywhere in the world where they haven't heard of our captains in the Destin fleet because they're that great. And they're everywhere, from the GNS boats that were made, and they're in 14 different countries, to all the knowledge that these captains have who've been invited to fish all over the world. It says a lot about why this is the luckiest fishing village. I came up with 7 committee members and myself to sit down, a total of 8 of us, to sit down and come up with how in the world do you go through 150 plus years of incredible industry of fishing, and how do you narrow that down? Because I didn't want this to be a hall of good. I wanted it to be a hall of fame, and we have a great history museum. We have a great resource right here next door, but I don't want to just recreate the history of Destin. So unfortunately, not everybody gets encapsulated in that first year. So anyone that thinks this was done where someone did not get selected, trust me, there will be time When you're a tourist and you come here and you just step on that boat, you take it for granted what all the acumen that those captains have and the responsibility. Everybody here comes with a dream of catching a fish. It's kind of what put us on the map, put Destin on the map. I grew up across the bay. I'm not from Destin like Robert. I grew up in Shalimar, but I did make that trip across the bay hundreds and hundreds of times. And when I was a young man in my 20s and had a lot more energy, I fished out here every moment that I had. I was lucky enough to have boats my whole life. And so that admiration grew to when I understood the responsibility when you step on one of those boats, what that captain takes on.
And now we've got even more folks that are on the run. We're hoping maybe you can help us find. And we're going to start with the Walton County deputies that are searching for 35-year-old Casey Bruce Rudder for felony violation of probation. And he was last known to live out in Panama City.
David Allen Bobbitt's 47 years old, and he is wanted for fraud.
No photo for 39-year-old Timothy Lee Davis, but he's wanted for felony use two-way communications device to facilitate a felony, as well as sexual assault. Now, he was last known to live on Southern Court up in Crestview.
65-year-old Thomas Edward Allison's wanted for failing to appear for aggravated assault on a person 65 or older. His last known address was Destin.
66-year-old Tobin Dean Collins is wanted for failure to register as a sexual offender, last known to live on Yacht Club Drive in Fort Walton Beach.
And this next person is Jill A. Bell. Unfortunately, no photo available of Bell, but he's 41 years old. He's wanted for felony, lewd, and lascivious molestation, and he was last known to live on Crooked Pine Trail in Crestview.
And here's 39-year-old Daniel Robert Turner O'Rourke. He's wanted for felony failure to appear for grand theft and criminal mischief, last known to live in Crestview.
Tristan Dean Mullins, 27-year-old white male, but no photo available. He's wanted for felony use of a two-way communications device and promoting sexual performance by a child, as well as sexual assault, last known to live on Deer Avenue in Niceville.
29-year-old Carson Ray Allen. She's wanted for felony violation of probation for battery of a law enforcement officer or firefighter, last known to live on Harbor Boulevard in Destin.
Next up is Blake Elliott Gundred. Gundred's wanted for VOP for grand theft, trafficking in stolen property, as well as providing false information to a pawnbroker.
And deputies are still looking for 47-year-old Timothy Ryan McDonald for felony violation of probation for burglary and theft, last known to live on Oxford Court in Mariester.
And here's a case out of the Crestview PD. Tasha Nicole Harris. She's wanted for felony intimidation, sending a written threat, and was known to live on Connor Drive in Crestview.
And we don't have a photo for Christine Chadwick, but she is a 60-year-old white female wanted for cruelty to animal and resisting arrest without violence.
Followed up by Aja Marie Nathan, who's wanted for failure to appear for vehicle theft. She was last known to live in Fort Walton Beach.
We have another one wanted for failure to register as a sexual offender, and that's 59-year-old Terry James Hennesser.
Mary Elizabeth Gibson is up next. She's wanted for VOP for leaving the scene of a crash with injuries. Gibson's last known address was Silva Drive in Fort Walton Beach.
The Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office recently recognized its Deputy of the Year for 2023, along with outstanding performers who went above and beyond in their efforts. Take a look.
For 2023, Deputy Rubo responded to 2,222 calls for service, made 93 arrests, and conducted 397 traffic stops for various violations. Deputy Rubo is passionate about identifying and enforcing DUI violations, leading to 16 DUI arrests. Constantly pursuing perfection has led Deputy Rubo to a 100% conviction rate in all DUI cases. The Marine Unit continues to set the standard for Marine law enforcement in the Panhandle of Florida and Alabama. Other Marine law enforcement agencies continually contact the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office seeking operational direction and recommendations on vessel platforms and marine-related electronics. Considering the size of other Marine units, this is a significant accomplishment. Every day, Deputy Foster greets the students with a friendly smile or special handshake. He counsels them during times of hardship, eats lunch with them, and provides support and encouragement when needed. The children look up to him as a best friend, a mentor, and a role model.
So congratulations to all of those folks on those achievements. That's pretty impressive right there, I can tell you. We're going to move on to our last list of fugitives. Remember, 863-TIPS, EmeraldCoastCrimeStoppers.com, or the P3 Tips mobile application, and get that out if you've got any idea where to find any of these folks, and you could earn a cash reward. Final up on this list is Roderick James Rudderson Jr. He's wanted for possession of synthetic narcotics within 1,000 feet of a school and failure to appear on a traffic charge.
Next up is 36-year-old Samuel Edwards Thomas III. He's wanted for violation of probation on the original charges of providing false information to a pawnbroker, false imprisonment, and grand theft, last known to live in Shalimar.
And law enforcement is still looking for Kristen Marie Chandler because she's wanted for failing to appear on a charge of fleeing and eluding.
And the Walton County Sheriff's Office is looking for 45-year-old James Anthony Williams for violation of probation for possession of a controlled substance, possession of marijuana, and possession of drug paraphernalia.
Next case is Tony Wayne Poland. He's 54 years old, wanted for failure to appear for criminal mischief, burglary, as well as theft, and he was the last known to live in Freeport.
And wrapping up our fugitives, this show is 27-year-old Cole Rutland Graninger. He's wanted for violation of probation for aggravated stalking as well as burglary.
And we wanted to wrap up by reminding people who may not be aware that the Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office does offer a free firearm safety course. It involves classroom training and also being out on the range with certified instructors.
That's right. It focuses on stressing the proper laws and proper training to ensure safety.
I got a, I have a towel. So, remember, finger outside the trigger?
Yes, sir.
Right here.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Is it ready?
Yep, it's ready. There's no safety on it.
No safety.
All right. Not teacupping it on the side. There you go.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Stand in front of it. Are you squared up on it?
This ball animal's gonna keep around.
As I tell my wife, the door is the plane. The moment he breaks the plane, and you're in fear for your life, remember, that's key. We talked about that outside. As long as you are able to articulate you are in fear for your life or the life of someone else, and someone's trying to enter your home forcibly or uninvited, as long as you can articulate you are in fear for the life of yourself or someone else, you don't have to ask questions.
So if you're interested in finding out more about this free firearm safety course, all you have to do is go to sheriff-okaloosa.org. When you go to the website, you'll be able to find the class and click on that and get more information about what it entails and information on signing up for it as well.
Well, last year, Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers, if you remember, we featured a deck of cold case playing cards, which profiled some of the colder cases that law enforcement officers in Walton and Okaloosa County were still trying to solve. Well, that actually got the attention of a national podcast called The Deck, thedeckpodcast.com, and they have featured a couple of our cases recently. And one of them was the Andrea Durham, the 1990 disappearance, and then the disappearance also in 1997 of Kimberly Raymer. So here's just a little bit of information about it, but be sure to visit their website and listen to both of those podcasts.
Kenny Raymer hadn't seen his daughter Kimberly, who goes by Kim, all weekend. But that wasn't too weird. It was summertime, school was out. Kim was a teenager heading into her senior year at Opp High School in Alabama. She was independent and responsible enough to just do her own thing. Plus, Kenny would often spend the night over at his girlfriend's place, but usually their paths would cross at least once around the house. But that hadn't happened this particular weekend. After sleeping over at his girlfriend's, he had gone back to the house at some point Saturday, August 16th to grab his golf clubs before heading out to play. Kim's car was there, but she was nowhere to be found. Then it hit him. She was supposed to sell magazines for a school fundraiser with her friend. That friend had probably scooped Kim up and they were out and about doing that. So Kenny left a note on the table and went about his day, not thinking much of it. But when he returned home later that night, the note was right there where he'd left it. No explanation scribbled back in return, and Kim's car was still in the driveway. When Roseanne Sterling returned to her apartment a little after 9 p.m. on February 1st, 1990, she reached in her purse to grab her key, probably out of pure habit. She always locked the door when she left her 13-year-old daughter Andrea home alone. And that evening had been no exception when she and her 15-year-old daughter Asha left for a meeting around 7:30. But when her hand met the knob, it wiggled slightly, like it had already been unlocked. Weird, maybe, but she had no need to worry yet. She had to remind herself that her once little girl was now a young teen becoming more and more independent by the day. But when Roseanne stepped inside, she saw something that seemed out of place, which made her unease grow. It was the vacuum. Here's Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office Senior Investigator Kelly Henderson.
According to the family, no matter who vacuumed the residence, the vacuum would immediately be put back in its place upon completion, and it was in the middle of the floor, which was very uncommon.
Now, of course, Emerald Coast Crime Stoppers, every year, since we don't use taxpayer dollars, we do rely on fundraising and donations, and our annual crawfish boil is almost here. It kind of snuck up on us. We had a scary situation with a crawfish shortage, but it is a go. It will be held April 13th, which is a Saturday at Uptown Station, as it always is. We will have mud bugs and shrimp, and of course live entertainment, and then Okaloosa County Sheriff's Office K-9 will be out there. Some of our law enforcement partners will be out there, but it's fun for the whole family. It's going to start at 11 o'clock. We'll be there till we sell out of crawfish, so make sure to mark your calendars. We'd love to see you.
Always a big turnout for that. And that's going to do it for this episode of Okaloosa Eye on Crime. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you next time.